welcome to another Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today, so tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we're going to be covering the dev update video as well as some community spotlights, Captain's Log, and more. Next on Keelhauled Podcast. First up on today's docket, we got some information from the dev update video about them going out to multiple conventions, including some of the sponsored ones that they're doing with Twitch. And it's really nice to see that they are continuing to commit to going out to meet pirates, to talk to them, to hear what the community has to say that aren't available through forums, Twitter, Reddit, all the regular places that we lurk around. And to be able to see that they are still really happy with where the community is and where they're going with the game, it's so refreshing to hear that from a company on a regular basis, to let us know that they still really appreciate us as pirates, as content creators, as community members. And that brings us to the main topic that I want to talk about: stream sniping. So with Sea of Thieves, it's not something that a lot of people are watching on stream, but it is unfortunately one of those games that you can effectively stream snipe and start not necessarily harassing, but disrupting the experience. And if you watch a lot of streamers on Twitch or on Mixer, this does tend to happen to the bigger ones, the full-timers. And it's kind of a bummer because for them it's hard, because they want to give an authentic experience for their viewers. They're showing them something that they want to see on a regular basis, that natural PvP that occurs in the game, that excitement from dealing with volcanoes out in the Devil's Roar. And when you start injecting viewers who want to put themselves in an experience like that because they want to be a part of that, and if they get declined, sometimes it's negatively impacting the community members that are wanting to do that, because they start kind of feeding on that desire to be in something that they're not into. And Joe puts it very, very plainly and very easy to understand for people. And that's basically, stream snipers are injecting themselves into the game. They are inviting themselves to someone else's party when they're not invited. And while he says, and I agree, this may not be always a negative thing, it does change the whole point of the stream. This is something that I'm guilty of. I've done it a couple times, and I've tried to do it a couple times. I did it once on Frosty's stream when he was hosting Joe Neat for the Loot and Lore game show that he was doing a while back. I came in at the very end just to say hi, and I wasn't trying to really disrupt anything. I was just trying to come say hi and stuff, but I did end up distracting from the game, and I really shouldn't have. I should have kind of stayed back and whatnot, but I know Frosty tended to invite people into the stream sniping as kind of a fun part of the game. So with that, I try to keep that just between friends, where I have a rapport with the person that I'm actually with. With the weekly streams, this is kind of a big issue, because we have seen multiple times the same kind of streamers, or not necessarily streamers, but people coming in, injecting themselves into the experience. And with the weekly stream, that really should be about the guest and the devs. The devs are taking time out of their work life, out of their personal life, to stream the game for a couple hours, to take on questions, to communicate with the community, and to let them know that they still love the community. And they try to showcase a guest each week to make sure that people are finding out more about the people who are playing Sea of Thieves on a regular basis. And I know with mine, when I actually got out there, I had someone come and basically jump on our ship and stay with our ship. And he's polite enough, but he does it all the time. And he knows who he is. He does it every week practically. And he's actually been on the weekly stream. And they even mentioned this last week, that more than some of the devs have been on. And that really takes away from the experience, because then you're getting up in the other person's camera. You're basically blocking the experience, and you're upstaging. And coming from a theater background, that's something that usually gets you barred from most theaters. If you try to upstage another person, you're generally not going to find jobs outside of the one that you just have right now. And you may not even last that, because there's typically understudies who can take your role very quickly. So with streaming, I'm glad to hear that they are deciding to actually take some time to actually work with the streamers, or hopefully develop some tools for the streamers to be able to block names that come up on pirates. And I talked a little bit about this with some other people in the Keelhauled Discord about whether or not we should have pre-assigned pirate names going into a service. So for example, say you jump into the game, you have your ID, and you can see your ID if you open like the menu or something like that, but your character, your pirate, has a pre-assigned piratey type name, and it's something kind of like the infinite pirate generator, where it just generates a name that's associated to your ID at that time. So when they see you, they can only see the pirate name that you're given. They can't see your actual ID. So say if you were actually out in the world, it wouldn't just show like a name as it being like another pirate in your crew or another pirate not in your crew. So there's no way to kind of worry about whether or not that person's with you or not. You just have to remember which weird pirate is in your crew. So Salty Jim comes aboard your ship from another ship, and you see Salty Jim, but Salty Jim is your friend who happened to join in the game, and you know them, and you can message them through Xbox like you would normally, but all intents and purposes, someone watching your stream would only see Salty Jim, and they can't search the Xbox for people to be able to start messaging them. And the reason that that's important is because if you start getting lots of people watching your stream, you know, if you start getting 1, 2, 3, 400 people starting to watch a stream, and you have the ones that are trying to stream snipe it, the ones that are trying to be malicious, or even just the ones that are trying to butt in on the party, you start running into that problem where you've got, say, kids that are playing this game. It's a very good game for kids to play because it's very slow based, but there's points of action, and it's a good way to kind of teach them how to operate in an environment. And you start getting these kids that are starting to get hundreds of people messaging them trying to get on their ship, and that overloads a kid. If that's, I mean, how would you feel if you were a kid and a bunch of strangers started calling your phone or started calling your house and started messaging you or messaging you online trying to give you attention? Some might like it, some might not be able to know how to handle it, especially with a lot of anxiety issues out there. Sometimes having that anonymity for a child can be a great tool for them to be able to explore the world without being subjected to people bugging them all the time. And same thing with adults too. I mean, I know a lot of adults that suffer from anxiety, depression, things like that. Especially social anxiety is probably the worst. And to have people constantly bombarding them to message them to get on their crew, it's not fair to that person. That person's just playing the game. They didn't ask to be put in that situation, and it shouldn't be as a community, we can step up and be better than that. We can be better than doing that. I know I've committed myself to never trying to do that ever again. I'm never going to try and jump on another person's server, either by jumping into there and checking for a Reaper's Mark. The only thing I've been doing lately is with Beardigan. Beardigan actually goes out and search for PvP. So I will hop on a server and I will take a look around for Reaper's Marks, and if there's so, I will let him know that I have a server that has a Reaper's Mark if they want to jump on, if he wants to jump on my sloop and take over, and then I will leave because it's his stream. If I want to stream, I'll go stream. If you want to stream, go stream. If you want to have an audience, you know, it doesn't take much to stream nowadays. It just takes a little bit of software or just sharing on the Xbox. You can do it. That being said, I believe this community can rise above this, can stop doing this, especially since the devs have asked us to stop doing it. The fact that they have to develop tools to help prevent stream sniping takes time away from them actually working on content that we're asking for. So they're having to solve a problem that we created, and it's going to detract away from them working on stuff that we want. So if that's how we want to, if that's how we want to go about it, then it's not going to be a community that is going to survive. And we have to really start keeping each other in check. We're the community. We should be able to mitigate the instances where this is happening, and we should talk to people that are doing this and try and make sure that they understand what they're doing so they can hopefully make the right choice and stop. All right. Next up on today's docket, I want to talk a little bit about Shrouded Spoils and what we can expect going into it. So, as of right now, they've basically got Shrouded Spoils ready to go. And the big question on my mind is it going to be Tuesday or is it going to be Thursday? Because the way I look at it, If we get it Tuesday, early Tuesday, then they have enough time to be able to get content in for the weekly stream revolving around Shrouded Spoils, as opposed to letting it go later in the week and then having to do a weekly stream about 5 days or so after it's actually launched. So I think they want to get it in on that Tuesday, because I think that's when they're going to be able to really capitalize on the fact that a lot of people are going to be jumping into the game to be able to play it and to be able to talk about it with a guest and kind of explore, see if they can find fog or play around with some of the mega kegs. I think that's going to be kind of what they want to go for. Worst case scenario, the Pioneers test it, they find some issues, and they have to push it out to Thursday to try and take care of some of those issues. So hopefully, what I'm hoping is that we actually get it in on a Tuesday. And hear me out, this is why. If we get it out on a Thursday, or excuse me, on a Tuesday, the 27th, then 4 weeks later, the standard kind of, we've seen the duration for these content updates being is about 4 weeks. That would put us at the 25th of December. Perfect for a Bilge Rat update for Christmas event. So I'm hoping that Tuesday is what we get, because that way we're actually going to be able to have a Bilge Rat adventure for the beginning of Christmas. And then it'll be, hopefully it'll be a holiday event and we can do something. I'm constantly talking about how I think it'd be great to have a Bilge Rat adventure focused around giving treasure away to other pirates and only getting credit if they actually if they actually turn it in. That way you're kind of seeking out people to kind of give them something as a thank you, or is kind of a kind gesture, not being selfish in this instance. Kind of the holiday spirit, you want to, it's the season for giving. We're thankful in this season. Next season, this holiday we're thankful. For next holiday, we're giving. And I think that'd be a good Bilge Rat update. With that being said, I hope we get some interesting cosmetics for it too. I think we got some holly jolly cosmetics, maybe even some Krampus kind of stuff. That'd be kind of cool. Have some goat horns in the game. That'd be weird, but I don't know how that'd work. I'm just thinking right now, like some of the cool stuff I could see, but having some interesting effects out there, maybe pull in some of that nifty stuff from that fan art, Frozen Fangs, as far as like cursed chests or something like that. I don't know how hard that would be to be able to push that in as quickly as they could, but God, there's so many things they could probably work on for the holidays as far as like a good Bilge Rat update. I hope they take some time to actually do it. I know myself and Jorvik were actually playing around with some of the different cosmetics in the game as it is, and managed to come up with some pretty convincing holiday spirited themes. I think he took the Wilds sails from the Cursed Sails campaign, as well as the merchant hull, and had a really nice red and green boat. We went out to the Devil's Roar and got some red lights and decorated those, as well as some green ones from Skeletons, and just kind of decked it all out with some red and green colors. And then we went and put on some white beards and some red clothes and got a couple photo shoots in of the Sea of Thieves Santas. And I think I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that coming into this next holiday. A lot of snows following in many places. So hopefully you're being safe. Hopefully you're staying warm. I live in California, so it's perpetually warm, regardless of where I live. So that's kind of what I live with. But I spent 7 years in Alaska, so I understand how you out there in the snow feel. I definitely did not like having to shovel driveways or scrape ice off my windshield. I had the benefit of studded tires though, so that was nice. Hopefully you don't have to deal with chains. So be safe out there, but I'm looking forward to hopefully the Bilge Rat adventure coming out on Christmas Day as a way to kind of ignore the fact that everyone has presents down below underneath the tree, and just be like, sorry, I got to sail. Like it's the Bilge Rat adventure of holiday spirit. We have to go and give presents to others. I can't be opening stuff about myself. Besides, I already opened all my stuff. I bought a PS4. It's a little sidetrack, but I ended up buying the PS4 bundle, if anyone on Twitter was wondering. I got a lot of good games too, so I'm pretty much set for the next year for PlayStation. Nothing's coming out, hopefully, so I don't have to worry about that. If there is, I'm sure I'll probably have to pick that up and put it on the backlog and try and fit in time between Sea of Thieves Voyages and Heroes of the Storm and Fallout 76. I don't know how I'm going to play all these games. I bought them. I don't know how I'm going to play them all, but I'm getting sidetracked. So back to Shrouded Spoils, and even that was pretty much it. Just we'll have a nice Shrouded Spoils 4 weeks. That'll take us to the 25th of December for the Christmas event. None of this is confirmed. I'm just kind of making it up as I go. I think that with Shrouded Spoils ending towards the end of December and having a Build Rat adventure, if the Build Rat adventure goes for another 4 weeks, that would probably put either a new Build Rat event, which I don't think they're going to do because they haven't really talked about it or worked on the holiday event until just recently. I think we're going to have the arena popping in sometime towards the end of January, which feels about right. Like right now, it feels like they have the basics down as far as what they want to do as far as the actual content goes for that. And now I think it's just a matter of whether or not they can test it and get it built in during the next 2 months, which I think is enough time for a new event. I think they can probably push that in, especially since they have multiple teams working on different things. The thing that's going to be interesting is whether or not they start working on having reoccurring Build Rat adventures, something that I've been pushing for a while, not necessarily because I like Skeleton Thrones, but more so to deal with the fact that new players are going to be coming in as a result of the Black Friday sales that went on, as far as having like Sea of Thieves 30 or 50% off, having it at $30. We're going to have a new influx of people who didn't play it through Game Pass or just getting an Xbox, and this being a mainline title that is good for most ages. I think a lot of new pirates are going to be coming into the scene, and to give them an opportunity to really kind of test out some of the stuff that's going on with the game, some stuff that's in the game that isn't really referenced anyway outside of commendations, having those done, I guess not really redone, but re-implemented Build Rat adventures might be a good way for Rare to give players an opportunity to test out stuff that they skipped over between events, the Hungering Deep and the Cursed Sails. It's just something I've been thinking about a little bit as we kind of get longer in the tooth as far as since game launch. We're closing in on a year in the next few months, and I just want to see kind of where Rare goes with the Build Rat adventures, because it feels like we haven't quite expressed ourselves as far as like all the different things that we could possibly do. Everything new coming in is nice because it adds functionality or at least some fun to it, but I think that there's definitely an opportunity for them to kind of have these reoccurring Build Rat adventures. That being said, going back to Shrouded Spoils, if it's on a Thursday, I think it's going to be kind of a shame that they didn't get to capitalize on the weekly stream for that, but we have heard that it's mostly ready to go. So expect this Tuesday. I'm going to say that we're probably going to get a video for the content that's available in it. We'll probably hear, hopefully Monday, that it's coming out on Tuesday, and then Tuesday we'll have the servers drop down. They'll probably implement the patch, have the content go live, and then a video covering the content sometime during that day. Some of the things that we know going into this are going to be ship customizations, and I know that they've talked about they're going to be having the capstan, the wheel, and the cannon customizations. One thing that is something I'm interested to find out is if we're going to be having standard kind of liveries. Every content update, we've always had some sort of update that gives us new liveries, whether it be sails, ship hull, things like that. They haven't said anything this time so far to hint at that, but I think that there is a bit of a hint if you look at the developer update video that we got during this last week. Joe was kind of coveting or holding these precious gemstones, the same gemstones that if you were playing during July, you might remember the mermaid statues that we were destroying for some unknown reason, because Duke the Dark Lord decided to tell us we had to go do that. Now, those are back, as I understand it, from some of the data mine stuff, and I don't know how valid this is because a lot of it is just line text that we got a while back, basically talking about how the mermaid statues are back, how we're going to have to destroy them, and then we can use the gems that they drop, the ruby, sapphire, and emerald, to turn those in for a certain amount of gold. And the reason I think this is happening is something I think I might have talked about this on the last podcast, but if I didn't, I'm going to cover it again just real quickly. We're getting these mega kegs in this update, and one of the biggest problems with the ruby statues back in July was they found out that a lot of pirates who like to be solo don't have the ability to blow these up or destroy these on their own without finding that sweet spot. Now, a lot of us found that sweet spot behind the back of the mermaids where you could still swipe at them and still hit them without taking that damage from the aura that they put out. Now, they did say they were going to work on that, but I don't remember them ever actually implementing a fix for it. So with these mega kegs, now that they're 3 times the explosion, you could probably find one of these and maybe 1 or 2 other kegs, put them around a mermaid statue, and effectively take them all out in one shot without having to gather a bunch of resources from some of the nearby forts, making it much simpler for solo pirates to be able to actually knock out some of these achievements regarding the mermaid statues. So we don't know a whole lot about what's going on with the mermaid statues, why they're implemented, or what they have to do with the Whaling Barnacle set that came with the July Bilge-Rat update, where we started getting that Whaling Barnacle set as far as the clothing and then the weapons that kind of revolve around what we now know is Stitcher Jim's ship. So with that being said, it's hard to know why we're going to be going back after these mermaid statues, but if I had to take a hint, there's a good chance that we might be having some more info regarding mermaids coming in the update post-arena. And that's something that I think they've wanted to do for a while. They think they have a lot of content in the art book regarding mermaids and a lot of how they turn. There's a lot of art in the art book that kind of talks about like what's going on, how the mermaids change, the curse of the mermaid, how they're turning humans into mermaids, why there's malevolent, what's that word? Malviolent. I can't think of that word. You know what I'm talking about, though. There's the angry mermaids, and then there's the happy mermaids. The happy ones are obviously the ones that are helping us, and they have that nice little staff. The angry ones have the trident that they use to kind of wield as their powerful stick thing. I don't know. So with the mermaids hopefully coming in the update after the arena, we'll finally kind of divulge the secret of what's going on and hopefully get a lot more lore centered around 9cat Nina. Oh wow, I'm blanking on names today and I don't feel like going to look it up, but Belle, Diving Bell, and 9cat's Nura, that's it. 9cat's Nura. Hopefully we'll get a little more information from them, because if you've read the lore book, you'll know that they were the ones that kind of took over the journal of Captain Flameheart after he disappeared, and after they found the I think it was the chest Diving Bell went out and found, and we know that she's a character that they developed into an undead, so we know that she's turned as well, based on the statue that they have of Belle in the Rare Studios lobby. So there's got to be some story that's kind of pulled around that, and I'm thinking that going back to the mermaid statues with Shrouded Spoils, I think if they're willing to bring back the mermaid statues, then we might start getting a little more information about who the mermaids are, where they are, why we haven't seen any angry ones yet, how come they had ones protecting shipwrecks that they haven't put into the game. We also know that some of the data mine material suggests that we might be getting different sized cursed ships coming in as far as brigs and sloops, and they also suggested way back in the day that they were interested in the idea of having sunken ships being different ships other than galleons. They thought that was a really interesting idea, and now that they've kind of thought about that, we might see some implementation of that. As far as items go, tools, soft tools like your shovel, your compass, bucket, things like that, I don't think we're going to be getting anything in, as much as I think a lot of people want fishing. I think that I'm kind of 2 minds. For personally, I don't think they put fishing in yet. I think that's something that would have leaked. If it is coming, it's been a really well kept secret, even to some of the people that have been leaking the content from the NDA'd Pioneer testing. So if it's coming, it's going to be a real big surprise to me. I don't think it is at this point. I've been on the other side of the fence for so long, but the fact that we haven't seen anything about it really kind of makes me wonder if that's something that's actually going to come this patch or not. All right, sorry, I didn't realize just how long I'd been blabbing on about stuff, but once you get on a roll, you just get on a roll, I guess. So some of the other things that we know are coming with the Shrouded Spoils are going to be the Pirate Legend commendations, and this is kind of the biggest. This is the of all the things that are shrouded, this feels like the most shrouded thing next to the mermaid statues for me, because at this moment we really don't understand what the heck is even going on with them. We know they're commendations, and we've recently found out that there's going to be clothing associated with these commendations. We don't know how to unlock them. We don't know if they're going to be just Athena's voyages. I'm really hoping that it's not just doing Athena's voyages in the Three Seas and Devil's Roar. It would be nice if there was something a little more interesting than that. That being said, Pirate Legends don't really have a whole lot to do outside of Athena's fortune voyages that other pirates aren't doing. So outside of, giving Athena's chests away to other players or just turning in a certain number of them, I can't really understand like where our desire or what our goal is for doing those. Anything that Pirate Legends can do, every other pirate can do outside of the Athena's fortune voyages. So I don't know. I'm hoping that I can't wait to see what it is, honestly, because I can't wait to see what I can do besides giving away treasure chests to friends in the Discord for Athena's Fortune voyages. Because at this moment, that's basically what I've been doing, even though I probably should be keeping my gold for the sake of buying all these customizations. So, and that being said, I was wondering, how many of you actually go out of your way to spend time kind of gathering gold for these updates? Like, do you actually go out and purposefully try to grind as much gold as you can, knowing that the update's coming, knowing that you're going to have a lot of stuff that you want to buy? Or do you just kind of jump in and play how you normally do, and any gold that you get, you kind of hang on to, knowing that there's a content update coming? So let me know. I'm wondering about that. You can always hit me up, email. It's CaptainLogun@gmail.com. Twitter, you can always tweet me at CAPT_LOGUN. You can also let me know on Xbox as well too. My gamer tag is CaptainLogun, all one word, just Captain Logan. And I'm trying to think if was there any other? I don't think. I'm in the Discord as well too. You're always welcome to join our Discord. Discord's a great place to keep the conversation going. Post show on Keelhauled Discord. Link is always in the show notes. Yeah, with the update coming, I'm realizing I'm going to need a lot more gold than I have. I've been spending a lot of my time actually going out and getting treasure, or not getting treasure, but getting items that I don't have from the little shops, the little cargo run supply depot places. I almost never buy anything from the actual outposts nowadays. It's always from the little shopkeepers out in the middle of the seas who have the discount, even if it's just like a 5% discount. If it's something I don't have, I immediately pick it up because I know it's a better deal than anything at the outposts. So I wonder if the outpost, I wonder if they're noticing a decline in sales, and if so, I wonder if maybe there's a sale coming. No pun intended. That would kind of incentivize pirates to come back to the outposts to actually buy items. Especially if you're not really concerned with what items you buy, you're just buying something because it's cheaper. Other than that, we're still very much in the dark about what's coming with Shrouded Spoils. With the fog, I do want to make a quick mention of this. I don't know how many people have been paying attention to the updates or if they've caught it, but with the fog, you are going to have to use the crow nests to be able to see over the fog to keep the watch out. So if you're going on a solo sloop and you start noticing that fog is coming in, it's going to be really good for you to either wait it out or to go in an area where you know there's not going to be any rocks nearby, just so you don't have to deal with that. And just be very cautious when you are sailing around, because you're not going to have that same functionality as two-man crews or more who can afford to have one person up in the crow's nest during those areas where you're in fog to kind of keep an eye out for rocks, for other ships, things like that. Especially with the cursed sails being emergent in the world now, you're just going to be able to see them, and according to Joe, they're going to be something that's passive until fired upon, which is good, but I can definitely see how that could be used in a tactical advantage. I kind of wonder, with them sailing around, if you're being attacked by another crew, how apt these skeleton ships will be to helping or hindering you in an escape, or to kind of help take out another ship. So say you fire upon them, proc them to actually engage with you, sail a certain distance away, and hopefully have the cursed sail turn on the other crew. That's something we've always tried to kind of mess around with the Megalodon, knowing that the Megalodon was out there and trying to get the Megalodon to bite you and instead go after the other ship in a fight. I'm always curious to find out if these emergent threats will kind of be a way to attack other players in a sense by drawing them in without really knowing that they're going to be getting attacked. It was always really fun when early in the game, when you first started way back in the day, they had the Kraken, and the Kraken was the main threat. And for whatever reason, it was always a galleon that would go out to a skull fort, and there'd be a long battle that would occur over at the skull fort. And I swear, every time that galleon, whether it be my own or someone else's, had the loot on board and started sailing out, the Kraken would pop and it would just grab that ship. And if you were sailing back, the chances of you getting hit by the Kraken were very slim. Sometimes it did happen, but most of the time it always seemed to go after the ship that had the most loot on it, which was typically the winner at the skull fort. And that was great because it always bought you enough time to try and get back and to try and sink that other ship before they could kill the Kraken. And with the Kraken being a little more powerful now, I can see that being a lot of fun if it coincides with the fog and the Kraken, and then having to deal with the Megalodon in a storm with increased lightning, and then cursed ships chasing after you. Like, can you imagine the amount of bad luck you must have to get hit by all of these different things all at once? Man, that'd be kind of rough. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. All right. Next up on today's docket, I did want to mention that the Stitcher Gems Sorrow is now up on YouTube. So if you've wanted to listen to that on a regular basis, it is now available. Now that I think about it, I guess you could have always just watched the trailer, huh? It was always there and it had the lyrics and you actually got to watch the trailer. I'm not sure. That's kind of strange. I'm kind of hoping that this is a sign that we'll hopefully be getting the Stitcher Gem song in the game now that it's released as a YouTube video, just purely of the actual song itself. Man, God, why did they put out just the video? If they had the trailer, you could have always just listened to the trailer, and then you wouldn't have to worry about it because the trailer has a song in it as well. Why did they do that? I gotta ask someone. I'm gonna have to bug someone, find out why that was. I can't see the reason for that now. You just go and listen to the trailer and you got the song. You didn't have to have a separate video for that. Anyway, other way, I'm gonna link the video in the show notes if you just want the Tavern Tales song. It's now up. It's on YouTube. You can listen to that anytime you want. Although I guess you could have already at any point. I don't know how I didn't realize that till just now. So anyway, good to hear it. I love it. Hopefully this means we're getting it in game soon. I know that was something that we were asking for, and Shrouded Spoils is supposed to be something we're all asking for. Fishing, making separate pirates, clothing layouts, all kinds of good stuff. Cannonball radials for the cannons. All that stuff I've been begging for. Pioneer access, tons of free gold, trips to UK, things like that. Hopefully we're getting that all Shrouded Spoils. Hopefully. All right. So on a more somber note, I wanted to take a moment to kind of tip my glass, pour one out for the podcast world as far as Sea of Thieves goes. As it stands, I'm starting to accept the fact that I am the last Sea of Thieves dedicated podcast. I was running with the Landho podcast for quite a while. It doesn't look like they've updated since the beginning of October. I don't know if they're coming back. I haven't talked to them. I know that Plundercast, I know that the Sea of Thieves one is pretty much moved on to weekly streams at this point. I don't think they're going to be uploading any audio content for a while. I know that the Shipwrecks and Shanties quit around the same time that the Plundercast one went. If you're still interested in Sea of Thieves podcast info outside of myself, I know the Blaze Experience is still doing podcast episodes for Sea of Thieves, though it is more centric around the updates themselves. So he is still out there doing his podcast. He's a great guy, does a really good job. That being said, guys, it's kind of a bummer. I was hoping that I wouldn't be the only one. I kind of like having other podcasts to listen to about Sea of Thieves, get other people's viewpoints on there. That being said, I think I'm going to want to try and work out the technical aspects of doing recording with other people, and not necessarily. I'm not going to take on another co-host. The show is always going to be a solo show, but I have been wanting to do interviews for a while. I've been talking about it since I began the show with friends and other people. I've talked to other content creators, and they've been open to the idea of doing an interview to kind of find out why they started, what's going on in their world, and where you can find them. Kind of doing some community spotlights as well, just seeing if there's anyone out there that would like to kind of chat about their experiences on Sea of Thieves, see if there's stuff that they would like going on. So I don't know when. I don't really have a set time frame for this because it's always going to be dependent on multiple factors, whether or not I have school, classes, work, life, getting time in between playing all the games that I've picked up, as well as Sea of Thieves, and of course this podcast. This podcast is my number one priority, and I always want to make sure that I get out a weekly episode so that everyone knows kind of what's going on, how I feel, things that I've been noticing, things like that, so you don't have to necessarily aggregate all this information for yourself. So if anyone has any suggestions as far as software or things that I can do for interviewing people. I know a lot of people use Skype. I know some people use Discord. I'm open to suggestions. If there's guides online, I'll probably look into it. If you have a link handy, I wouldn't mind that as well. You can always reach me at the ways that I mentioned earlier, and the contact info is always in the show notes. But guys, I thank you for supporting me constantly. Even if you subscribe, but you don't get a chance to listen, to listen. I don't know what listen is, but to listen, I really appreciate it. It's something that I love doing. I really love this, and I'm hoping that in the future I'll have time to expand new podcasts for different games, depending on games that really kind of excite me, something that I feel like I could be passionate about. I don't want to do something if I'm not passionate about it. And thankfully, Sea of Thieves has been one of those games that I don't think I'll ever get tired of playing, even though I'm jumping to different other games and streaming some different games from time to time. Sea of Thieves is thankfully still the one priority I have in my life that I think is the easiest to maintain outside of family. It's the simplest thing I could do to enjoy myself. So I hope that other podcasts decide to crop up in the next coming year to decide that they want to jump on the Sea of Thieves train and kind of keep us going. That being said, hopefully with the podcast as it is, I'll just maintain what I'm doing and make sure that I'm getting a weekly episode out for everyone, and hopefully add to it instead of subtracting from it, because I'd feel bad if I dropped that beacon, if I was the last man with that torch and kind of let that go to the wayside. So all that being said, thank you again. I can't wait, and let's move on. All right, pirates. So I promised a while back that I would tell a tale of such grand adventure that you couldn't help but be enthralled by it. And I let you know that I was going to see if Captain Jorvik wanted to do it first. And then I wanted to check and see if it would be done at all. If it wasn't going to be done, then I was going to go ahead and do it. So I went ahead, checked in with the crew as far as like Jorvik and in Redbeard, see if they were okay with it. They're okay with it, so I hope I do this justice because it was such an epic night. It starts one night, I'm just kind of hanging out watching, and I know that Jorvik has been out streaming, and he's been streaming a long time, and I notice that he's calling for help. And I go in and find out that he has been sailing on the same galleon with Redbeard and with Bewilden for a while. Now, Bewilden has had to take off. He's gone. So now it's just Redbeard and Jorvik working on this Athena's over in Old Faithful Isle, which Old Faithful is one of my favorites because it's the one that everyone hates. And I love knowing that everyone hates it because I'm so good at finding stuff on it because I've spent so many hours. I think I spent 2 hours on it once doing an Athena's alone, just working out where the heck this riddle was because it took me so long. I pretty much mapped out everything in this island. So I join in on them, and they're working on Old Faithful Isle. I get out there, and I'm able to find it relatively quickly and able to help out. And then I find out their real motive. Their actual motive was to go out and sink this galleon that was over past Marauder's Arch doing the skeleton ships. And this is awesome because I love going in to I love jumping into a match and going and murdering pirates and not having like any kind of repercussions for it. I just love jumping into that and being able to just murder them and be like, all right, thanks, have a good night, and just leaving. So I jump in, and they're sailing. We start sailing towards Marauder's Arch. And we start kind of gathering resources as we're waiting, and we're just kind of biding our time, hoping that we find out when one of the cursed ships sinks. We don't know what wave they're on. We don't know what the condition of the galleon is. We're just hoping that there's a good chance that by the time we get out there, we can snipe the kill them, get the captains, and run. So we're hanging out at Marauder's Arch, and we're just kind of hanging around there, and we notice that the ships go down, and we realize that this is our time. As one of the ships goes down, there's one skeleton cruise ship left, and we start to notice that the galleon is actually sinking as well too. And we start rushing. We start going out, and we're like, okay, they're sank. There's one ship left. We just have to go out there and get this one ship, and hopefully it's the captain. So we go out there, and we're battling this other ship, and as we're running on, there's only 3 of us on this galleon. So I'm jumping onto the skeleton ship, and I'm trying to protect 2 or 3 of the holes in the bottom hull against these vegan skeletons down there who were obviously healing so much, and I'm just trying to stay alive. Redbeard gets knocked off, I think, at one point, or he jumps off or something. And I think Jorvik is trying to man the ship on his own at this point, and it's just too much. And as we're trying to actually battle this skeleton ship, we realize that we're taking too much damage, and we end up losing our ship. Now, when I got on this ship, there was a ton of loot. I walked into the captain's cabin, and I was dumbstruck by just how much loot these guys have been hoarding from this Athena's run so far. And I'm looking at all this and thinking in the back of my head, crap, our ship is going down. Hopefully someone can salvage this. And Redbeard does. Redbeard comes to the rescue. He grabs the rowboat, and him and Jorvik start piling on all the chests they can possibly get from the skeleton ship that sank earlier from our ship, and they're trying to row it back to Marauder's Arch to get it safe. And as I'm getting the ship, I'm bringing the ship all the way from Ancient Spire Outpost, and it's at this moment that they realize that the other galleon is coming back. The other galleon that sank on their own terms are now sailing back towards the cursed sailed ship, and they're actually trying to re-engage with the cursed sailed ships. They have no clue that our ship was there, or if they did, they don't know that we had a rowboat full of loot that we're now rowing back over to Marauder's Arch. So I'm sailing the galleon back north, back up to the ship so that we can try and get back. Jorvik jumps on and starts helping me with the sails to get back up there. We have very minimal supplies. I didn't even get a chance to really loot anything because I was trying to get back there so fast. And Redbeard manages to stow the rowboat away at Marauder's Arch, take our mermaid, and get back to our ship. And just as we're getting ready to start firing on the other galleon, that's when they start to parlay with us. And we do one sail by, and I can't remember because this was a while ago. I've been holding on to the story. I'm trying to remember the details. I can't remember if we volleyed at them yet or not. I think we did, and I think we had an exchange. And then I think the captain of their ship and Jorvik start to parlay. And I think negotiations at this point are becoming a thing. I think they want to split the loot with us because I think they had just finished off the next wave and had gotten the captain's loot, and it was sitting there in the water ready for us to take. And we didn't take it. We didn't sink them. And I'm sitting there now. They have their ship facing pointed south with their butt towards the north. I know. I don't know why I said butt. Sorry. I said it again. Anyway, so I'm sitting there, and I've got our ship kind of perpendicular to theirs. So our bow is facing towards Marauder's Arch, and I've got port completely lined up with cursed cannonballs just ready to fire on this crew. I am just ready. I'm going to drop 4 cursed cannonballs on them and drop another 10 regular cannonballs into them at any given moment, any hint of aggression. And I'm just waiting because Redbeard is trying to help grab some of the treasure from the ocean and take it back to our ship. And then Jorvik is kind of keeping an eye on the other crew. And they send over one of their crew members over to our ship, and I'm following him around now. He's checking out our cabin. He's checking out our hull. He's checking around for powder kegs, for treasure, anything that they could give them a reason to want to betray us at this point. And we've just joined an alliance with them too, so we know we're going to be getting part of the actual treasure from them as well. Even though they did nothing. They took out some of the skeleton crews, but for the most part, we finished everything off and had the advantage on them, and we could have easily taken all of it. But Jorvik's a nice guy. Jorvik's a really good guy. So what does he do? He offers to give them half of the loot that we should be taking for ourselves because we've got the advantage on them. So the other pirate legend is kind of wandering around, and I'm like, look, you can look, but you better not touch. Anything you do aggressive, I'm just going to murder you and then sink the ship. And he decides to leave after that. He shoots himself back over and heads back to his ship. We get half of the cursed crew's treasure, and we notice immediately as soon as we finish up the cursed cruise, skeleton fort pops, and we're like, okay, well, we've made a parlay. We've joined an alliance. Let's use this to our full advantage. Let's go take out the skull fort. Meanwhile, knowing that there is a rowboat full of treasure hidden on Marauder's Arch. And that wasn't even it, too. I found out later on, Jorvik and Redbeard and Bewilden had even stowed away even more treasure on another island I didn't even know about. They had 2 hulls full of treasure sitting around on islands, buried like actual pirates. It was amazing. I was just like, you guys got to be insane. So we decide to head over to the Skull Fort. The other galleon makes a beeline for it, just going straight towards the one. And it had been one that was actually in the wilds too. I think it was Sharktooth Keep. I think that's the name of it. I can never remember that one. I just remember Crow's Nest because of my buddy Captain J, and I remember mine. So they're sailing over to the one over by the wilds, and already there is a sloop. I don't know how the sloop got over there so quickly. Maybe they were watching us over by the cursed sails and realized that the Skull Fort popped and decided to try and take it. These 2 pirates were so good. It was kind of ridiculous. This sloop crew took out the galleon and then almost took out us. Myself and Redbeard took a rowboat over to the outpost, and I got killed almost instantly thanks to a powder keg that someone got in front of me of, and I couldn't get away. So I got back on the island, and then I kind of had to go back with we decided to detour from getting the island, or from the Athenas that we were working on, and head straight for the Skull Fort. Meanwhile, Redbeard is over there and thinks he was murdered by one of the other crew members, and we found out that it was actually the sloop. This sloop takes out the galleon, anchors himself in pretty deeply into the fort, and then start repelling all the attacks that we made on them. And it took a lot. We emptied a lot of cannonballs into that sloop, and they returned with full force too. Eventually, the other galleon came in and acted as a deterrent and started to actually help out. We eventually sank the other sloop. It was not easy because, bear in mind, the ship that we had still only had the bare minimum supplies. This was still just a very fresh ship from when we had respawned after losing to the skeleton ship earlier in the night. So we're sitting there, hardly any supplies, trying to get ourselves to do this skeleton fort, and we managed to clear out most of the waves. This is when my better pirate side comes out, because it's at this moment that I realize these guys deserve nothing. Nothing. We helped finish off the skeleton ships. We could have sank them at any point in time, and we're basically doing the majority of the work on this skeleton fort. We should be taking all of this treasure, not just half. So Jorvik at that point gives me the go-ahead in a very subtle way. He said, do what you do best. I snickered to myself, and I decided to find the nearest powder keg I can get. I'm now on the far end of the skull fort with a powder keg, slowly swimming, biding my time, listening to Jorvik kind of talk and dazzle the other crew. He calls out the captain and says, "I want to talk to the captain. I want to talk to the other captain about how we're going to be splitting this up. Where is he?" And the captain says, "Well, I'm in the ship." And he's like, "Okay, I want to talk to you because they have a new crew member." And this crew member is interesting, if not eccentric. He is excited about everything he sees and very surprised to see just about anything. And there's actually kind of a fun story I'm going to talk about later on and how I scare him. So this very fresh, very vocal pirate is spooking Jorvik. I imagine not by any actual means. I'm pretty sure Jorvik was using this guy to play up our ploy, our plot. And as he is kind of coaxing the other crew members off of the ship, I go out with my powder keg and I drop it. And I swim away and I watch as the beautiful red barrel floats to the surface. And then slowly, with a very silent kaboom, shudders the entire galleon. Then I hear the captain crying about how someone has now just powder kegged them. And Jorvik is trying to play it off as nothing major. I climb up the galleon side. I go down into the hull. And the captain's like, "I'll be right there. I just have to plank up these holes that are now filling our ship." And without a word, I slice his throat. And he falls to the ground. And as the water starts to fall in and fill up the bottom hull up to the middle deck, the other crewmates are executed with excellent precision by Redbeard and Jorvik. It's exciting. It was thrilling. And we took every single bit of that Skullfort loot. And then we took the rowboat over and we gathered all the bits of treasure from the Skullfort as well. After we had gotten everything from the ship, the sloop that had taken their loot that we then rightfully took back, we now had an entire Cursed Sails crew worth of loot, an entire Skullfort's worth of loot, and then half of the loot that came from the Athenas they had been working on earlier. We're now sailing as fast as we can towards Sanctuary Outpost, knowing that a very upset crew is going to be chasing after us. If not for the sloop, then definitely the galleon, because the galleon had now just been betrayed by the crew that they had barely parlayed with earlier in the evening. So we make it out past Old Faithful Island, and I can't tell you how sweet the shores of plenty looked at that moment, until the water went dark and everything got very quiet. Next thing you know, guess who's with us? Karen the Kraken. Her large, angry tentacles rise up out of the water and start hissing at us violently, and we realize this small ship, this one galleon that we've had, only has 3 or 4 good cannonballs left in her. And at this point, one of my buddies gets me a beer, decides to pop onto the island, and I couldn't be more, or onto the ship, and I couldn't be more grateful because the gentleman is deadly. And he decides to jump in on me to see what kind of fun I'm having, only to realize that we are just getting attacked by a Kraken with no cannonballs and a ton of loot. So we all do what we can. We try and get our swords. We try and get our guns. We try to fend off Karen's arms, but she has been working out and will not let our ship go by any means. And we sink everything into the water. But that's not all. We still had the rowboat. That same rowboat that Redbeard salvaged from our previous ship with all of its loot is now holding 3 pirates and a ton of loot in the middle of this black water. And we are frantically trying to row. And the black water, the Kraken, is holding us in place. We row and we row. We even switch pirates out because I was getting tired and I couldn't row anymore. So Gets Me Beer decides to take helm and starts rowing out. And we can't really feel like we're moving. We can't tell if we're rowing out. And on the horizon, I look out past the tentacles, past the black water, into the west. And what do I see? Galleon. There's a galleon over at Lone Cove. And my heart sinks. And the only thing I can think of is, man, I really hope that's not the other crew. And I wait. We're stuck. We're dead in the water. There's nothing we can do. We're waiting for the Kraken to let us go, and it's just taking forever. The crew on that galleon doesn't move. They're staying at Lone Cove. Why would they stay? They just saw a ship sink, and if it's our crewmates, if it's our alliance, they know that we have all the loot. So why aren't they coming? We wait. Finally, Karen the Kraken decides to leave us, and we're able to get free. She doesn't recognize that we're all on the rowboat, and we start rowing our boat. Finally, Redbeard decides he's going to take a chance. He goes out and he grabs the mermaid, and the mermaid teleports him. And the only thing we can hope is that that galleon that is sit quietly parked at Lone Cove is ours. Sure enough, Redbeard finds on the map that we are now parked at Lone Cove, and we are just a few meters away from getting to Lone Cove. We make it around. We hitch our rowboat up to the galleon, and it's a sweet sail over to Sanctuary Outpost for about 5 seconds. Yeah, we look out on the horizon, and sure enough, the crew that we had just taken everything from was hot on our heels. And we make a wild, crazy move. We decide we're going to leave everything on the rowboat. And in fact, we're going to leave the ship. We're going to take the rowboat, 3 of us. Captain Jorvik is now sailing the galleon solo away from us as we row towards Sanctuary Outpost. And it couldn't have worked better. The detour, the bait, everything was perfect. The other ship started to pursue, knowing that we hadn't quite made it to Sanctuary Outpost, is probably thinking that all of the loot is still on our galleon. But it's not. It's not. It is but feet away from Sanctuary Outpost, where we can start turning in all of that loot. And sure enough, Jorvik has now gathered the galleon to kind of talk with them, to parlay, to let them know that we were initially spooked by this original pirate who just came onto their ship, who was very eccentric, very loud, very unsure of what to do. Just as Jorvik is starting to lay on the sugar, that's when we start turning stuff in. And it's oh so sweet to have that feeling of them sitting there talking to Jorvik and then realize all the treasure that they were hunting, that they were trying to get back, is now being sold. And Jorvik, the good guy that he is letting them get 50% of it. Now, personally, it was my understanding that we should just be taking the loot for ourselves. But Jorvik wanted to make sure that they understood what was going on and let them have 50% of what we turned in. So, in the Alliance, they start getting gold. And more gold. A lot more gold. And it clicks. And they begin to realize there's only one person on that galleon. Everyone else is slowly turning in all the loot that's stuffed on this very dedicated, very loyal, very well-built rowboat. It's so satisfying. That's about when Jorvik finds out that Getsmeavir is not on Sanctuary Outpost anymore. In fact, he is now back on the galleon, and not just back on the galleon, murdering the other pirates. He was not anticipating this. He was hoping for a nice evening because he had actually made friends with the other captain and was now concerned as far as future sailing engagements with him. Now, everything that happens on the Sea of Thieves is settled on Sea of Thieves. You can always kill someone on Sea of Thieves and then be buddies next time. In fact, I've done it recently with a guy that I met online. He was trying to murder me. I asked if he was trying to murder me. He said yes. I said, okay, well, I have some treasure. Would you like the treasure? He's like, yes. I said, okay, well, I'm finishing up a voyage. If you can wait until I get done, then you can have my treasure and then we'll turn it in and then we can go murder each other. And he said, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. So we do that. So you can still have death and destruction on the seas, but still be friends afterwards. And in fact, I just recently got an invite to sail with him, though I had to decline because I'm doing the show right now. So Redbeard is now with me on Sanctuary Outpost, and we're kind of snickering about the whole situation because Getsmeavir is murdering pirates left and right, and Captain Jorvik is trying to have me get him under control, and I don't get Getsmeavir under control. Getsmeavir gets me under control. So I'm just kind of letting him know that everything's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. So we all get back to the galleon, and now we're trying to take out the galleon, who's now trying to pursue us, who is who is now very upset that they've missed out on all of the loot for the 100% turn in on their end, which, to be honest, they're lucky that they even got anything as far as I'm concerned. We did a lot of the work, and if not all of it. So that being said, that was probably one of the most amazing fights nights I've had. It was a very long night, and I can't even imagine how long it was before I didn't even finish the story. That's right. We sailed on, and we decided we were going to sail and try and get the other galleon to leave us alone. So we still had an Athena's. We had 2 islands left. We had Shipwreck Bay, which I finished up. I shot over to Shipwreck Bay, tapped the 4 chests that were on there, and then took a mermaid back to our ship. And our Athena's was actually over on Thieves Haven. Now, at this point, we don't have any supplies on the galleon. There's practically nothing. I'm surprised we even stayed afloat at this point. Our rowboat is over at Sanctuary, and we're 1 rowboat short of an awesome story. So as we're sailing south, we're now making our way to Thieves Haven, where the Athena is. It's right on the beach. It's real easy to get to, but we have this galleon chasing us. And the galleon is pretty far back. We actually managed to get away from them pretty quickly. And we're sailing past that little, you guys know that unmarked island between Sharktooth Key and the spire in the middle, the one that was used during the Hungering Deep, that has the underwater cavern where Beardigan's tribute is for soloing the Megalodon. So we're sailing by that, and I notice there's a rowboat. So I tell Jorvik, I'm like, look, here's what we can do. We keep sail. I'm going to fire myself over to this island. I'm going to get a rowboat, and I'm going to rowboat my butt down to Thieves Haven and dig up that Athena's and turn it in. And he's like, you're sure? And I'm like, yeah, it'll be fun. Trust me. So this is how it went down. I shoot myself over to the unmarked island where the rowboat is. And as I'm over there, I'm swimming towards it. I find out that the other ship has now fired the captain and the 1 loud crewmate. And as he's in the water, he's like, oh, one of the guys is here. And I'm like, oh no. No. I'm not alone. I don't know if I can handle 2. So I turn around and I immediately snipe the dude who was following me, the new pirate who's quite boisterous. And he's like, "Ow, why are you shooting me?" And I'm like, "It doesn't matter. You're gonna die." So I kill him, and I find the captain on the shore, who is now hunting me while I'm trying to hunt him. And we do a bit of a dance in the water as we're swimming around trying to exchange shots. And I managed to snipe him and get him with 2 sniper shots. And he gives me kudos at that point. I was actually kind of happy about that. I was nice. I was like, oh, it's good to have friendly PvP when you're duking it out for stuff. So I get the rowboat after their ship has long sailed past us. Jorvik is still leading them off and decides to start taking them towards Devil's Roar. Meanwhile, I'm actually rowing the rowboat all the way down to Thieves Haven, and I eventually make it down there. I'm able to dig up the rowboat as they're starting to deal with a brigantine as well. They're trying to help take down a brigantine and make friends with the galleon that we had been betraying this whole evening. And I managed to turn in the Athena's, and it is so satisfying because at the very end, the very moment I'm coming around towards Plunder Outpost, I'm like, oh crap, guys, that sloop that sank the other galleons at Plunder Haven or Plunder Outpost, and they've got the chest. And Redbeard, I could hear it in his voice. His heart just sunk. He's like, no. And I'm like, yes. And then I'm like, just kidding. So I managed to turn in the Athena's just fine. At that point, we pretty much dropped out. I think we had one person randomly pop in to the galleon to see what was going on, and then we're like, yeah, we're all gone. We're all gonna have a night out. So thank you. Have a good night. It's been fun playing with you. And we all just log off at that point, leaving the random person that jumped in on Jorvik to have the galleon on their own and deal with all the baggage that we had created. Man, that was a good night of pirating. We made a lot of gold. Maybe not the most if we had just been grinding out voyages and stuff, but the amount of fun that you can have by betraying and then getting people to believe you and stuff, it really lends itself well in this medium. I still think that the alliance should be 75-25. If you got 75% and they got 25% instead of 100% and 50%, I think pirates would be more inclined to this sort of play. They'd be more inclined to be selfish and like myself and want to take all of the loot for themselves, especially if they feel like they earned it compared to the other crews. So that being said, it's amazing some of the stuff that you can have out in the world, and This is just normal everyday play. This didn't even revolve around anything that was during a current event. It had nothing to do with the Festival at Damned, but it just happened to be based around an Athena's Voyage, Cursed Sails, Skullfort, and the Kraken. And that's it. It's amazing what you can do with good friends and some fun on the seas. So, Pirates, I hope you enjoyed that story. I hope I did it justice. I really do. That being said, I'm going to probably call it short. I've got DDK2 has a First Mates log that I want to save for next week because I have a feeling that next week I may or may not have a good story just based on time constraints. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this again. And I think that's it. I think that's all we got going on. All right, Pirates, that's going to do it for this episode of Keelhauled. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it. If you did, please feel free to go over to Apple Podcasts, leave a review and a rating if you like it. If you don't like it, do the same. I always read those out. No new reviews as of now, so I'm just kind of hoping that if anyone has the opportunity or some time, you're able to help promote that show, help give people a reason to find it, help kind of bump it up in the charts so that fans of Sea of Thieves can find it without having to do like a direct search. Hopefully it just kind of populates for them if they're looking for something, though. That being said, regardless, thank you. I appreciate you guys so much. It means a lot to me that you listen, that you subscribe, even if you don't get a chance to listen to every episode. It means a lot that you even are there. I would do this regardless, but having you guys listen just makes it that much more satisfying for me. If you want to get a hold of me, there's always ways to do it. I mentioned it earlier. The contact is going to be in the show notes, as always. Feel free to join the Discord as well, too. I love having new pirates jump in and join in the conversation. Find other pirates to play with as well, too. That being said, that's going to do it. Pirates, thank you. I love you. I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.